Hey my friends, this is Freddie, and this episode will be a bit different than usual because normally I like to take a closer look at different topics like elections or social controversies. But today I want to get more personal and directly speak to Candice Owens. Hey Candice, I have to admit that I'm impressed by your life's journey so far, because you rose from a difficult social background all the way up to being one of young conservative America's biggest voices. And you seem to be the definition of the American dream by fighting yourself all the way to the top, and you even became a New York Times bestseller. There aren't many people out there who have succeeded that way. So many people aspire and look up to you as a role model because in these difficult times of Corona and the financial crisis, people are searching a figure of stability to give them new faith in their beliefs and hopes. And the reason is a deep distrust in politicians in general. Because the politicians that the American system produces are those who are the most fit for the election system itself and do not necessarily represent the majority of the will of the people. And that is why I think the people feel the fresh air of genuine passion that can be felt when you share your thoughts and feelings. And while I personally might not agree with all of your political positions, I respect you as a counterweight to liberal positions in the political spectrum. Because I strongly believe that on every topic, both sides have to be heard and discussed in a calm and respectful manner. And I feel you when you share personal insults and attacks from people that do not agree with you politically.
To me, also to the police officers, this was a primarily black police force. This is Philadelphia. There was only one white police officer. The rest were black and Hispanic. They called us race traitors. They were saying F the police, and they were saying that all police are racist, despite the fact that this was an all-white group, Antifa, facing an all-black police force and myself.
That's not how a political discourse should be carried out. No matter if you're a senator or just a citizen protesting, it is not acceptable to be insulted. It is actually dangerous to the democratic process because it erodes the founding principles of democracy itself, which is trying to live together in a peaceful way in compromise. But the thing that saddens me is that in the last year, you seem to have taken more and more extreme positions that I cannot really understand. And the reason why I finally decided to address you personally in this video was when you released your video on YouTube, guess what? I'm suing the fact checkers.
I want to go after PolitiFact. I want to go after every single one of these people who think that they are gods as they censor our opinions and tell us how we are allowed to communicate on Facebook.
And I'll put a link to this video down in the description. In the video, you complain about the censorship of some of your tweets and Facebook posts. But as a doctor, I'm really shocked to see you consider the COVID pandemic being the motivation for the American government to shut down the economy and impoverish millions of people. And then referring to fact checkers as a huge monolith that tries to suppress free speech. So for me as a doctor, it shows kind of a lack of understanding of how doctors and in some way fact checkers actually work. When we as doctors try to find out what is wrong with the patient, we try to look carefully and objectively for information from blood draws, physical examinations, and imaging. But before we draw any conclusion how to treat the patient, we have to be sure. We discuss with colleagues from several specialties to be sure. And most of the fact checkers work in the same way. While the background of the fact checkers should always be taken into account, the fact checkers should be judged by how they analyze a statement and which sources they use to verify it. So just because a fact checker used to work for CNN doesn't necessarily mean that he's fact-checking you badly because of your political background. It's kind of the same way doctors should be judged by the way they explain to the patient how they arrived at the conclusion to treat a patient with a certain treatment. And if you don't feel comfortable, you can always get a second opinion from a different doctor. And the same way, you could ask a different fact checker to reevaluate your tweet or Facebook post. So if you were a patient, Candice, you would be telling me, well, I do not believe that your proposed drug for my disease is the best choice, because I know that you are an extension of the pharmaceutical industry. So with your drive and passion, you could easily become president of the United States in some years, I'm convinced. But for me as a European, I'm a bit concerned about America's future. Because the more and more I look over to our friends across the Atlantic, it feels like a couple that is slowly growing apart. Therefore, we have to communicate openly and with sincerity more than ever before in order to overcome our differences. Therefore, I invite you to discuss these and other topics with me because I want to understand you and America's future. And this applies to the comment section as well. So if you have any ideas you want to discuss, just put them down there. And I promise you, this is not some liberal leftist trying to trick you into a trap. And I hope your fans will see it the same way, because I'm a European and I look at America from the outside. I have no skin in the game, but what I have is something we both share, a willingness to learn.
Open to learning.
Okay.
Open to learning. I'm always open to learning. I've been wrong before.
I hope this message gets to you, Candace, and that in a not too distant future, we'll be able to enjoy this privilege of democracy, which is exchanging arguments and opinions and worldviews without being afraid of saying them.